And we come now to the last section now, 3 best practice examples from destination management. That was the declared desire that would also include inclusive water-based experiences. Again, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. We start with a land tourism organization with Bavaria Tourism unit lead networker Monica Tetzner, who is working for unit lead network management. This topic has been close to her heart for a long time. What does it really mean, accessibility in the destination management, and what it means in order to reach a interconnected destination promotion strategy? An applause for Ms. Tetzner.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm happy to stand on the other side and to share the perspective of a destination. Sorry, the microphones are all on. At the same time, as Bayern Tourismus, we are a company with 60 employees. Hence, we can show pretty well what structural change has happened in the area of accessibility. And this is what it comes down to for me today. For 6 years, I have been responsible for accessible tourism at LTO. 6 years of discussions with destinations, with businesses, with politicians, and with people who want to travel above all and don't know if they are really meant for that. And I have learned one thing during this time. Accessibility rarely fails because of a lack of goodwill. It often fails because of missing or existing structures. Today, it is not about checklists. It's not about new instructions. We don't want to show support programs or symbolic politics, but it's a strategic question. Do we treat accessibility as a project, or do we let it become a principle that guides our decisions? Now I jumped too fast. Here you see 2 people looking out of a window at a vast mountain panorama, from the detail to the whole. So anyone who thinks of accessibility as an individual project misses its true power, because it changes structures, roles, and the collaboration between the different stakeholders. And this is exactly the path we have taken at BayTM. From the quality label to an integrated destination and network strategy. I will now take you through this learning process, and let me say it is far from complete. We are still confronted with work in progress, and a lot still needs to be done. Bavaria is Germany's #1 tourist destination. We are larger in area than many European countries, so Bavaria is almost as big as Ireland, a bit smaller than Austria. Bavaria is not just a product, clichés that you know, lederhosen, costumes, culinary delicious things, but Bavaria is also a system, a tourist systems. We have 4 tourism regions: Franconia, Swabia, Upper Bavaria, and Eastern Bavaria. At the same time, we have 28 shareholders, including airports, but also big tourism associations. We also have 36 tourist regions, countless municipal levels and towns and cities. So for us, at Bavaria Tourism, marketing is not the only job we have. We coordinate, we try to balance interests, we try to network people. And in such a system, accessibility also works. Something that we have been pushing since 2014. It is not, or it doesn't work in isolation, but only across the board. We started with Travel for All. This is what we started in 2014. We have focused on infrastructure. We did awareness raising, and then the Travel for All label. So by comparison, we are the federal state with most offerings. Accessibility was about developing services, labeling, and then we developed marketing from it. And that was definitely the right approach. But we have seen and learned that accessibility was purely treated as a quality feature, not as an organizational principle. Then the world became more complex. I think that was in 2020 when COVID started. Many issues came to the fore. Digitization, for instance, accelerated. Then last year we saw the Accessibility Strengthening Act being passed, and then shortage of labor, of skilled labor. How do we get new talents into our industry? And silos that had existed before and did no longer work. And this has nothing to do with marketing. It has to do with management and with networking. And we also saw that if digital booking channels are not accessible to all, the offering does not exist because most people search online today. So it became clear that issues that affect multiple areas are not a project. They need a principle to make decisions. We need a principle to make decisions. In parallel, we at the same time at Bavaria Tourism changed. Marketing was our core task, but it was not alone. It was also about destination management. We want to show that we create areas for tourists and also guests, but also locals. We still do marketing, but our focus has changed and everything has become more complex. And this is where the difference is. Destination Management 4.0 means not just generating demand for guests, but also shaping the framework conditions for guests and locals. Not just making visible what is already there, but also having a say in how the destination develops. And this is where it gets crucial. An organizational principle is the principle according to which we make decisions. It answers the questions: what do we use our resources for? Which projects do we prioritize in our daily doing? And which standards apply to us, to everyone? And if accessibility does not appear in these questions, it remains pure communication and marketing. Once it is established, though, it changes investments, digital strategies, quality requirements, and network formats together with the tourism operators. Then it is no longer advertised, but we control the entire process. Now, what have we learned in the last 5 years? What is necessary for a successful implementation of accessibility? It was networks for us. In 2021, we created the Accessible Tourism Network because accessibility does not work along organizational charts. It works along value chains. All different areas have to cooperate. Private, public actors, people with disabilities. We have to bring everybody together because nobody is accessible alone. No destination, no operator. Networks only work if somebody assumes responsibility, and in our case it was Bavaria Tourism. Then accessibility is a matter for the executive level. We have many stakeholders that do the operational side, but if the management does not support this, then it is difficult. Organizational principles do not arise in project groups. They arise where strategic priorities are set. For us, that meant systemically integrating accessibility into strategic processes, and it can only work if leadership does not only enable it, but if it becomes really mandatory. Only then will it become binding for everybody. Then the digitization trend. We have heard about it. How do we get data? How do we spread data? Without digital accessibility, the usability of websites and tools, participation can never work. In the digital world, there is no such thing as rough accessibility. There's only access or no access, and digital accessibility is market access. Market access is infrastructure. So it became clear that it's not just about individual projects, it is about our entire system that needs to be changed. So this basically accelerated change, and it became or it came from a label to an attitude. A label identifies what already exists. An attitude of a company, however, shapes the future. So accessibility is not a proof, it is a decision-making criterion. It's no longer about who meets the labeling criteria, but rather what principles do we use to develop. Today, accessibility at Bayern Tourism is no longer a project, no longer an isolated issue, no longer a marketing issue. It is integrated into strategy, into networks, into digital and sustainable development. And it has an impact both internally and externally. In the first years, I was to be blamed when I, in meetings, said, please remember accessibility. Now the colleagues of different departments approach us automatically and said, hey, can you please help us and provide a bit more input? So I have seen a lot of change in the last 5 years. So it has an impact both internally and externally, and how we act also has an impact on other areas. That was our learning. So in the picture you can see somebody who lives in the Bavarian Alps. He looks at the distant horizon with his binoculars, and this is exactly what it comes down to. Accessibility is not an additional service, it's not a bonus, it's not an image factor, it is not a temporary project. We're now talking more than 20 years of accessibility history. It's a promise. It is taking on responsibility. It is a promise to people that work for Bavaria Tourism. The new young talents clearly check what kind of attitude we have towards social issues, and accessibility is a very attractive factor to gain new people. It's also a promise to our guests that they don't have to ask whether they belong. Information comes automatically, and it is a promise to ourselves about how serious we are about quality, hospitality, and the future. In the last 6 years, I have learned that structures do not change through good intentions. They change through conscious decisions. And every decision is an attitude. That's why today it's not just about accessibility. It's about the question what kind of destination we want to be. One that reacts or one that designs. One that checks who fits, or one that opens up spaces to everybody. Accessibility is not a project. It is a yardstick for our attitude. And maybe real and true sustainability begins right there, where nobody has to explain why participation is something that goes without saying. Thank you very much for your attention.